Lucy Kavanagh's day was already going terribly when she collided with the tall stranger outside Brood Awakening. The lukewarm coffee in her hand splashed directly onto his impeccably tailored charcoal gray suit, creating a dark stain that spread across his chest like a Rorschach test of her own clumsiness. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," Lucy exclaimed, mortification heating her face as she frantically searched her bag for napkins. "I wasn't looking where I was going, and I'm already late for work," and the man's expression hardened as he looked down at the damage. He was devastatingly handsome with sharp cheekbones, piercing green eyes, and dark hair that seemed professionally styled even at this early hour. But those good looks were currently marred by a scowl that made Lucy's stomach clench with anxiety. "You have any idea how much this suit costs?" His deep voice was controlled but cold. Lucy swallowed hard. "No, but I'm happy to pay for the dry cleaning. I'm so sorry." She finally found a few crumpled napkins and helplessly offered them to him. He looked at the flimsy napkins, then back at her, his expression softening slightly at her obvious distress. With a sigh, he took them from her trembling hand. "Forget it, it's fine." He dabbed ineffectually at the stain. "Please, let me give you my number." "I insist on paying for the cleaning," Lucy persisted, feeling worse by the second. "I said it's fine." He checked his watch, a timepiece that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "I have a meeting to get to." Before she could protest further, he strode away, leaving Lucy standing on the sidewalk, her empty coffee cup still in hand and her heart racing with embarrassment. She had no idea she had just ruined the suit of Victor Donovan, CEO of Donovan Enterprises and one of the wealthiest men in the city. Lucy arrived at work 15 minutes late, disheveled and without the coffee she desperately needed. As the assistant manager at a small but popular bookstore, she usually prided herself on her punctuality. "Sorry I'm late, Mia," she apologized to her coworker, quickly tying on her apron. "You won't believe what just happened." Mia raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess, another public transportation nightmare? Worse. I spilled my entire coffee on some poor businessman. He looked like he wanted to murder me." Lucy groaned at the memory. His suit was definitely expensive. "Was he at least cute?" Mia asked with a grin. "Irrelevant," Lucy replied, though the image of those intense green eyes flashed in her mind. "I'll never see him again anyway, which is probably for the best, but fate had other plans." That afternoon, while Lucy was arranging a new display of bestsellers, the shop door opened, accompanied by the cheerful jingle of the bell. She looked up with her professional smile in place, only for it to freeze when she recognized the man entering the store. It was him, Coffee Stain Guy. Except now he was wearing a different suit, this one navy blue and equally immaculate. His expression was neutral as he scanned the small store before his gaze landed on Lucy. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Lucy felt her cheeks flame. What were the odds? She considered hiding behind the bookshelf, but quickly realized how childish that would be. Instead, she straightened her spine and approached him. "Welcome to Bookmark," she said, trying to sound professional. "Can I help you find something?" Then, unable to help herself, she added, "And I'm still very sorry about your suit this morning." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "So you do work here. I thought I recognized you when I passed by the window." Lucy blinked in confusion. "You were looking for me." "Not exactly. I was looking for a book, but seeing you is a convenient coincidence." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, handing it to her. "Victor Donovan, CEO of Donovan Enterprises." Lucy accepted the card, her eyes widening as she read it. "Oh, wow, you're well-known, and you are." He prompted. "Lucy Kavanagh," she replied automatically. "Assistant manager and professional coffee spiller, apparently." That earned her an actual smile, transforming his stern features into something much more approachable. "Nice to meet you properly, Lucy." She tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear nervously. "What book were you looking for, Mr. Donovan?" "Victor, please." He glanced around. "I need something on urban architecture. It's a gift for my sister." "Right this way," Lucy said, grateful for the professional distraction. As she led him to the architecture section, she couldn't help but wonder why someone like Victor Donovan, whose net worth was probably in the millions, would shop at their small, independent bookstore. She helped him select a beautiful coffee table book on contemporary urban design, and as she rang up his purchase, she blurted out, "I really am sorry about the suit. Please let me pay for the cleaning." Victor studied her for a moment, then said, "Have dinner with me instead." Lucy nearly dropped the book. "I'm sorry, dinner, to discuss the proper care of fine tailoring." His tone was deadpan, but his eyes held a glint of humor. "Are you serious?" she asked, utterly confused by this turn of events. "Completely, tonight if you're available." Lucy hesitated. This man was essentially a stranger, a wealthy, powerful stranger who had every reason to be annoyed with her, but something about the way he was looking at her made her curious. "I get off at 7, she found herself saying. "I'll pick you up here at 7:15. He took the bagged book from her hands, his fingers brushing against hers. "Don't worry about dressing up." Before she could respond, he was gone, leaving Lucy staring after him in bewilderment. "Did that just happen?" she muttered to herself. "Did what just happen?" Mia appeared beside her, making Lucy jump. "That guy, the one whose suit I ruined this morning, just asked me to dinner." Mia's eyes widened. The cute, angry guy was Victor Donovan, as in the Victor Donovan, the real estate mogul who's in the news all the time, apparently. Lucy showed her the business card. "Holy crap, Lucy, he's worth like hundreds of millions, and you're going on a date with him." "It's not a date," Lucy insisted. "It's compensation for the coffee incident," Mia snorted. "Sure it is." The rest of Lucy's shift passed in a blur of anticipation and anxiety. By closing time, she had convinced herself that Victor Donovan was either playing an elaborate joke on her or had some weird power trip thing going on. Either way, she was determined not to make a fool of herself. At 7:15 exactly, a sleek black car pulled up outside the bookstore. Victor stepped out, now dressed more casually in dark jeans and a gray sweater that somehow looked just as expensive as his suits. "Ready?" he asked as Lucy locked up the store. "As I'll ever be," she replied honestly. He led her to the car, opening the passenger door for her. "I hope Italian is acceptable." "Italian is perfect," Lucy said, sliding into the luxurious leather seat. As Victor walked around to the driver's side, she took a deep breath. What was she doing? The restaurant was not what Lucy expected. Instead of some exclusive, high-end establishment, Victor drove them to a small, family-owned Italian place in a quiet neighborhood. "I figured you might be more comfortable somewhere less ostentatious," he explained as they were led to a corner table. Lucy appreciated the gesture. "You figured correctly, though I'm still not sure why you asked me to dinner instead of just accepting my offer to pay for your dry cleaning." Victor settled into his chair, studying her with those intense eyes. "Would you believe me if I said it was because I found you interesting?" "Not really," Lucy admitted. "I'm pretty ordinary and that's exactly it." He leaned forward slightly. "Do you know how many people I meet who treat me like Victor Donovan, CEO instead of just a person? You didn't even know who I was when you spilled coffee on me." "Would it have made a difference if I had?" Lucy asked. "Most people would have reacted differently, tried to network or flattered me or been intimidated. You just offered me napkins and apologized like I was any other person." Lucy shrugged. "Well, you are just another person." "A person with an expensive suit, sure, but still just a person." A genuine smile spread across his face. "Exactly." As they ordered and began to eat, Lucy found herself relaxing. Victor was surprisingly easy to talk to, asking thoughtful questions about her work at the bookstore and her passion for literature. He listened attentively as she explained how she'd started as a part-time employee during college and stayed on after graduating with her English degree. "So the plan is to manage the bookstore long-term?" he asked. Lucy twirled pasta around her fork. "Actually, I'd love to own my own shop someday, something small but special, a place where people can really connect with books." "That's an admirable goal." "What about you?" Lucy asked. "Was being a CEO always the plan?" A shadow crossed Victor's face. "My father started the company. When he died 5 years ago, I took over." "I'm sorry about your father," Lucy said softly. Victor nodded in acknowledgement. "It was expected he'd been ill for a while, but thank you." So if you hadn't inherited the company, what would you have done? The question seemed to surprise him. No one's asked me that in a long time, he thought for a moment. Architecture, maybe. I've always been fascinated by the way buildings shape the spaces we live in. Hence the book for your sister, Lucy noted. Actually, that was an excuse, Victor admitted with a slight smile. I wanted a reason to come into your shop after I saw you through the window. Lucy felt her cheeks warm. So you were looking for me, guilty as charged. His gaze was direct, unapologetic. Though my sister will appreciate the book anyway. The evening progressed with a natural ease that Lucy hadn't anticipated. By the time they finished dessert, a shared tiramisu that was possibly the best Lucy had ever tasted, she found herself genuinely enjoying Victor's company. Thank you for tonight, she said as they walked back to his car. It was not what I expected. What did you expect? Victor asked, his hand lightly touching the small of her back as he guided her through the restaurant's exit. I don't know, something more formal, less normal, he chuckled. I get enough formality in my work life. Sometimes it's nice to just be a regular person having dinner with a beautiful woman. Lucy glanced up at him, surprised by the compliment. In the soft glow of the street lights, his features seemed gentler, more approachable than they had that morning. So the coffee incident is forgiven. She asked. More than forgiven, Victor replied. I'm starting to think it was the best thing that could have happened to my suit. As they drove back toward the bookstore where Lucy had left her car, a comfortable silence fell between them. Lucy found herself wondering if this was really just a one-time thing, a strange, chance encounter that would make for a good story but nothing more. I'd like to see you again, Victor said, as if reading her thoughts. He pulled up beside her small sedan. Lucy looked at him, searching his face for any sign that this was some kind of game, but all she saw was sincerity. I'd like that too, she admitted. How about Saturday? I could show you my favorite spot in the city. Okay, Lucy agreed, curious despite herself. But this time, I'll keep my coffee far away from your clothing. Victor's laugh was warm and genuine. I appreciate that, though I'm not sure I would mind a repeat if it led to another evening like this one. He walked her to her car, and for a moment, Lucy thought he might kiss her. Instead, he simply squeezed her hand. Good night, Lucy Kavanagh. Good night, Victor Donovan. As she drove home, Lucy tried to process what had just happened. Had she really just had dinner with one of the city's most eligible bachelors? And more importantly, had she really agreed to see him again? Her phone buzzed with a text as she pulled into her apartment complex. Unknown number, just wanted to make sure you got home safely. Victor Lucy smiled, saving his contact information before replying, Lucy, just arrived. Thanks again for dinner, Victor. The pleasure was all mine. Looking forward to Saturday. Lucy fell asleep that night with a smile on her face, the memory of ruined suits far outweighed by the unexpected connection she'd found. Saturday arrived with perfect fall weather, crisp air, golden sunlight, and leaves beginning to turn. Lucy spent far too long deciding what to wear before settling on jeans, boots, and a soft blue sweater that brought out her eyes. She wasn't sure what Victor had planned, but he'd told her to dress comfortably. He arrived exactly on time, knocking on her apartment door at noon. Hi, she said, suddenly feeling shy as she invited him in. Her apartment was small but cozy, filled with books and plants and thrift store finds that she'd lovingly restored. Victor looked around with interest. This suits you, he said approvingly. It has character. Thanks, it's not exactly a penthouse, but it's home. It's better than a penthouse, Victor replied. Those can feel like hotels. This feels lived in. They set off in Victor's car, driving out of the city toward the coast. Lucy was surprised when he pulled into a state park about an hour away. We're going hiking. She asked, eyeing the trails that led from the parking lot. Sort of. There's something I want to show you. He retrieved a backpack from the trunk. I brought lunch. They followed a trail that wound through woods and up a gentle incline. Victor seemed to know exactly where he was going, occasionally pointing out interesting plants or birds along the way. Lucy found herself enjoying his company even more than she had at dinner. Here, away from the city, he seemed more relaxed, more himself. After about 40 minutes, the trail opened up to reveal a stunning view of the coastline. A small, secluded beach lay below them, accessible by a narrow path down the cliff. "Wow," Lucy breathed. "This is gorgeous." "My father used to bring me here when I was a kid," Victor explained. "Before the business took over his life, it's still my favorite place to come when I need to think." The significance of him sharing this place with her wasn't lost on Lucy. "Thank you for showing me." They made their way down to the beach and spread out a blanket Victor had packed. He produced sandwiches, fruit, and a bottle of wine from his backpack. "You thought of everything," Lucy said, impressed. "I try to be prepared." He poured wine into 2 plastic cups. "A toast to coffee spills and second chances." Lucy laughed and clinked her cup against his. "To ruined suits and unexpected meetings." As they ate, they talked more openly than they had at dinner. Lucy told him about growing up with her single mother, about her dreams of owning a bookstore, about her failed relationships with men who never seemed to understand her passion for literature and quiet evenings. In turn, Victor shared the pressure he'd felt taking over his father's company, the loneliness of a position where everyone wanted something from him, and his desire to do something meaningful with the wealth he'd inherited. "I've been thinking about starting a foundation," he admitted. "Something focused on literacy and education in underserved communities." "That sounds amazing," Lucy said, genuinely impressed. "Books changed my life. Everyone should have access to them." "Exactly." Victor's eyes lit up as he explained his vision. "Libraries, reading programs, scholarships." "But I want to do it right, not just throw money at the problem." "You need someone who understands books and people," Lucy suggested. "Someone exactly like you," Victor replied, his gaze intense. Lucy's breath caught. "Are you offering me a job?" "No," he said quickly. "I'm just sharing a dream with someone who gets it." After lunch, they walked along the shoreline, collecting interesting shells and talking about books they loved. Lucy was surprised to discover that Victor was well-read, with opinions on everything from classic literature to contemporary fiction. "Most people assume I only read business books and biographies of successful CEOs," he said with a laugh when she commented on it. "You don't really fit the stereotype of a millionaire businessman," Lucy admitted. "Neither do most of the ones I know," Victor said. "People are always more complex than their labels." As the afternoon waned, they reluctantly packed up and headed back to the car. Lucy felt more comfortable with Victor than she had with anyone in a long time. There was something about his thoughtfulness and the way he really listened that drew her to him. On the drive back, Victor asked, "Would you come to a charity gala with me next weekend?" "It's for the city's library system," Lucy hesitated. "That sounds pretty high profile." "Won't people wonder who I am?" "Probably," Victor admitted. "Does that bother you?" "A little," she confessed. "I'm not used to being in the spotlight." He reached over and squeezed her hand. "We can take things as slowly as you want, no pressure." Lucy thought about it for a moment. "No, I'll come. It's for libraries after all. How could I say no to that?" The week leading up to the gala passed quickly. Lucy and Victor texted regularly and met for coffee twice, with Lucy being extra careful not to spill anything. Each interaction deepened their connection, and Lucy found herself thinking about him more and more. The night of the gala, Lucy stood in front of her mirror, hardly recognizing herself. Mia had helped her find a simple but elegant emerald green gown that complemented her auburn hair and fair skin. It wasn't the most expensive dress at the event, she was sure, but she felt beautiful in it. Victor's expression when he picked her up confirmed that feeling. "You look stunning," he said, his voice slightly rough. "You clean up pretty well yourself," she replied, admiring him in his tuxedo. The gala was held at the city's main library, transformed for the evening with lights, flowers, and elegantly set tables. Lucy felt a flutter of nerves as they entered, aware of curious glances directed their way. "Relax," Victor murmured, his hand warm against her back. "Just be yourself." "That's who I want to be with tonight." Throughout the evening, Victor introduced her to various business associates, city officials, and fellow philanthropists. To Lucy's surprise, he always introduced her simply as Lucy Kavanagh, who works at Bookmark on 5th Street, never minimizing her job or exaggerating their relationship. "You're not what I expected," commented one woman, the wife of a prominent banker. "Victor usually brings, well, different types of women to these events." Lucy raised an eyebrow. "What type am I?" The woman seemed flustered. "Real, I suppose." Later, during dinner, Lucy asked Victor about the comment. "So what type of women do you usually date?" Victor looked uncomfortable. "In the past, I've sometimes dated women who were more interested in what I could do for them than who I was. And now," his eyes met hers, "now I'm with someone who offered to pay for my dry cleaning even though it would have probably cost her a day's wages. Someone who sees me as just a man, not a bank account or a business connection." Lucy felt a warmth spread through her chest. "For the record, I still feel bad about that suit." "I don't," Victor said, reaching for her hand across the table. "Best coffee spill of my life." The evening progressed with speeches about the importance of libraries and education causes that resonated deeply with Lucy. When it was time for donations, she watched in amazement as Victor pledged $1 million to fund a new children's reading program. "That's incredibly generous," she said as applause filled the room. "It's something I believe in," he replied, "and something I know you believe in too." When they left the gala, Victor suggested a walk through the nearby park, illuminated by string lights for an art installation. As they strolled hand in hand, Lucy realized how comfortable she felt with him now, how natural their connection had become in just a few short weeks. "I have a confession," Victor said as they paused by a fountain. "I've been thinking about you since the moment you spilled that coffee on me." Lucy laughed softly. "Even when you were scowling at me, especially then, you were so genuinely apologetic, so authentic. Do you know how rare that is in my world?" "I'm just me," Lucy said with a shrug. "I don't know how to be anyone else." "That's exactly why I'm falling for you," Victor said, his voice low and serious. Lucy's heart skipped. "Victor, too soon?" he asked, suddenly uncertain. She shook her head. "No, not too soon. I'm falling for you too, which is crazy and wonderful and terrifying all at once." Victor cupped her face gently. "May I kiss you, Lucy Kavanagh?" "Please do, Victor Donovan." His lips met hers in a kiss that was both tender and electric, a promise of something real and lasting. When they finally pulled apart, Lucy was breathless. "I've wanted to do that since our first dinner," Victor admitted. "Why did you wait so long?" Lucy asked, her hands still resting on his chest. "Because I wanted to be sure this was about us, not about who I am or what happened that morning with the coffee. I wanted you to know me, and I wanted to know you." "I do know you," Lucy said softly, "and I like what I know." The weeks that followed were the happiest of Lucy's life. Victor became a regular at the bookstore, sometimes just sitting in a corner with his laptop while Lucy worked. She teased him about using a small, independent shop as his office, but the truth was, she loved having him there. Their relationship deepened as they discovered more about each other. Lucy learned that Victor was fiercely loyal to the small team that had been with him since his father's time, that he had a weakness for science fiction novels, and that despite his wealth, he lived in a modest but beautiful apartment rather than a mansion. Victor discovered Lucy's talent for refinishing old furniture, her encyclopedic knowledge of detective fiction, and her secret dream of someday writing a novel of her own. 3 months after the coffee incident, Victor took Lucy back to the beach where they'd had their second date. It was colder now, the winter air crisp, but he brought blankets and a thermos of hot chocolate. "I've been thinking," he said as they sat huddled together watching the waves, "about your dream of owning a bookstore." Lucy looked up at him curiously. "What about it?" "There's a property I own downtown. It has a perfect street-level retail space that's currently vacant." Lucy's heart began to race. "Victor, let me finish," he said gently. "I'm not giving you anything. This would be a proper business arrangement. Favorable terms, yes, but you would be the owner and operator in every way that matters." "Are you serious?" Lucy asked, hardly daring to believe it. "Completely. I believe in you, Lucy. I believe in your vision and your ability to make it happen." Tears welled in Lucy's eyes. "That's the most incredible thing anyone has ever offered me." "There's something else I want to offer you," Victor said, his voice suddenly nervous. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Lucy's breath caught. "Victor." He opened the box to reveal a simple but beautiful diamond ring. I know it's fast. I know some people will say we're rushing, but when you know, you know. And I know that I love you, Lucy Kavanagh. I love your kindness, your passion, your authenticity. I love that you see me for who I really am. Tears were flowing freely down Lucy's cheeks now. I love you too. Will you marry me? Not right away, we can have as long an engagement as you want, but I know I want to spend my life with you. Yes, Lucy said without hesitation. Yes, I'll marry you. Victor slipped the ring onto her finger, then kissed her with all the love and promise of their future together. You know, Lucy said when they finally broke apart, people are going to think I spilled that coffee on purpose as some elaborate scheme to land a millionaire. Victor laughed. Let them think what they want. We know the truth. The truth is that I'm the clumsiest lucky person in the world, Lucy said, admiring the ring on her finger. And I'm the luckiest man who ever wore a ruined suit, Victor replied, pulling her close. 1 year later, Bookmark Dreams opened its doors in downtown. Lucy stood proudly behind the counter of her own bookstore, arranging a display of local authors. The shop was everything she had imagined: warm, inviting, filled with carefully curated books and comfortable places to read. Victor entered carrying 2 cups of coffee, carefully handing one to Lucy. For the owner on her grand opening day. Thank you, she said, accepting it gratefully. She glanced at her engagement ring, now accompanied by a wedding band. They had married in a small ceremony 6 months earlier with only close friends and family present. Careful not to spill it, Victor teased. I'm wearing a new suit today. Don't worry, Lucy replied with a grin. I only spill coffee on men I intend to marry, and I've already got one of those. Victor laughed and leaned across the counter to kiss her. Lucky me, lucky us, Lucy corrected. Who would have thought that one clumsy moment would lead to all of this? I think it was more than luck, Victor said, his eyes soft as he gazed at his wife. I think it was exactly what was supposed to happen. As customers began to arrive for the opening, Lucy couldn't help but agree. That spilled coffee had changed everything, leading her not just to love, but to the fulfillment of her dreams. Sometimes, she reflected, the messiest beginnings led to the most beautiful endings. And as Victor stayed by her side throughout the day, proud and supportive, Lucy knew that their story was just beginning. There would be challenges, certainly, but also joy, growth, and countless moments of connection. All because she hadn't been looking where she was going on a rushed morning months ago. Sometimes, Lucy thought as she squeezed her husband's hand, the best love stories start with a stain.